Right there. Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday morning service here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Laguna Beach. We are so glad that you have joined us today for worship at UUFLB. My name is Pamela Floodman, and I will be serving as the worship associate this morning. And we are so delighted to welcome back as our guest minister, Reverend Celia Young, to lead us in today's service. Reverend Celia is a longtime friend of this congregation and a frequent guest minister, and we look forward to exploring with her today the critically important topic of religious pluralism and whether church and state are truly separate in this country and what this means for our lives and the work that we are called to do together. So I want to begin this morning with the recognition that this land on which we join together in worship is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Ahashiman and the Tongva tribes. And for the past thousands of years and continuing today, these indigenous peoples claim their place as traditional land caretakers, and they act as stewards to protect their ancestral lands and to protect the earth. And we humbly offer our gratitude to the First Nations for their teachings and for their care of the earth. And with humility, we commit to learning and working on behalf of justice. Each Sunday, anywhere there is a service held in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a chalice is lit. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith. So if you have joined us this morning by Zoom, I invite you to light a chalice within your home as Reverend Celia lights the chalice for us here. May this flame we light remind us that every one of us can bring the light of love to the world. May this clear flame be a symbol that every heart can burn bright with joy, peace, and harmony. May the wisdom of ages speak to us through this flame and stay in us. Every one of us can be a blessing to the world. So thank you, Reverend Celia, for lighting the chalice this morning to begin our time of worship together. And there are so many of us who come together each week to make it possible for us to gather for worship on Sunday mornings and to continue our work in community throughout each week. So many thanks to our Zoom and audiovisual techs, everyone who helps take care of the building and those who ensure we have beautiful music as part of every worship service. And behind the scenes, the dedicated members of our board and our worship committee. And if you're sitting here and thinking that you see something that you'd like to have done or that you see you can contribute to, please step forward and talk with any of us. We are grateful for all of the members and the friends of this congregation. And at UUFLB, we are a welcoming congregation. And this means that we are committed to working together to make a difference, to build community, to learn, and to actively dismantle systemic racism and oppression in all of its forms. So whoever you are, whomever you love, no matter your age, your gender, your background, your life experiences, we welcome you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and ethical beings and serious intent to live out our values in our world. Unitarian Universalists subscribe to no single religious creed, but have gathered a set of principles that guide us as we build a religious community together. And the principles that Unitarian Universalist congregations affirm and promote are up on the screen now for those of you with excellent vision, but they're also on the back of your order of service. And if you didn't pick up an order of service, they are in the basket on the bench at the back of the sanctuary. Our gathering music this morning was Louder. This is a collaboration that was made in 2022 between blues musician Kebmo, also known as, or born as Kevin Roosevelt Moore, but known now as Kebmo, And it was a collaboration between him and global youth climate activists. And I love the spirit that's captured in this music. And it reminds me powerfully of our first UU principle. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And this includes not only those who appear to have the power, but also the voices of all of those to whom we must learn to listen. And as Kebmo sings several of the lines from the music this morning, he sings, "Young people are thinking with a mind that's all their own. They are ready, willing, and they are able. They're going to fight the fight till they find the answers." And I also love the lyric, "It's their life they're giving voices to." And I think this concept of truly listening to the voices around us is also critical for the topic of our service this morning. Are church and state really separate in this country? We may think we are following our motto of religious pluralism, but are we letting one religion permeate our lives and not listening to the voices of all? So today, Reverend Celia is inviting us to grapple with these important questions. Celia, we are so delighted you've chosen to join us this morning, so welcome. Don will now pull up a slide for us with information about some of the upcoming services here at UUFLB. And coming next Sunday on October 13th, Stacy Pendleton will be joining us. Stacy is also a friend and a common frequent visitor to our congregation, and she'll be leading a service that incorporates her own take on sound healing using her crystal bowls and her amazing voice. And so we always look forward to having Stacy join us. And for those of you who haven't been here for a sound healing service, this space and this sanctuary is an amazing place to experience the music that Stacy brings to us. In several weeks, we will be having another guest visitor. Michael Esselin visits us typically about once a year to bring us a sermon that's based and rooted in the work that he does as a chaplain at UCLA. So I know we'll look forward to that service as well. Other announcements are just a reminder that every week on Monday at noon, we have a Zoom at noon group, which meets, as you can tell from the name, by Zoom, led by Paul Bogdan, as a chance for people to connect with each other and get to know each other at a deeper level and support each other. I also wanted to say a thank you to everyone who helped host the meal this month at the alternative sleeping location. On the first Thursday of every month, this congregation joins together with some members from the Tapestry congregation to provide the meal at the alternative sleeping location in Laguna Canyon. And there are some people who regularly, month by month, participate, and there are others who step up when we need to cover for someone who's out of town, as we did this week. And I just want to express my gratitude to everyone. Two other events that are coming up. On Tuesday this week, the worship committee will be having its monthly meeting. We usually do it on the third Tuesday, but it will be on August 8th this month, and October 8th this month by Zoom on Tuesday evening at 7. And if you're interested in joining us, speak to me or to Rachel or to Noreen, and we can get you added to the worship committee invitation. Also, the board will be having its monthly meeting next Monday, October 14th, also by Zoom, Monday evening at 6 p.m. And everybody's welcome to join the board meeting. Throughout the service this morning, if you are here with us in the building, I invite you, if you wish, to come forward at any time and light a candle here in the sanctuary in recognition of whatever it is that you're carrying in your heart as you join us for worship today. And it is such a joy for us to have guests on Sunday mornings. So if you are here for the first or second time, we'd love to get to know you. And we'll start with our visitors on Zoom. If you are comfortable doing so, and you visited by Zoom, please raise your hand on Zoom, and Dawn will spotlight you so that you can introduce yourself. Do we have any visitors by Zoom today?
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm Jim, and I'm visiting from Seal Beach. Thank you for having me.
And do we have any visitors here in the building for the first or second time who'd like to stand and introduce themselves? Okay, well, welcome, Jim, from Seal Beach. We're delighted that you're here. And let's take just a moment to turn to our neighbors for a quick greeting and to offer personal welcome to old and to new friends.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
So thank you all for joining us here at UUFLB this morning, and we hope that you have a few. Sorry about that. We had a piano mic drop there. So we hope that everyone has a few minutes to stay and enjoy coffee and conversation after the service and an opportunity to talk with Reverend Celia.
To begin, to start, to create, to undertake, to grow, to promise, to increase, to generate. All these were our birthrights. As we are created, so may we create. The ability and the choice to create is sacred. To withdraw that chance from anyone without their permission will be a violent act and cutting off the life itself. And yet, as precious is the right to simply not, to end, to terminate, to stop, to discontinue, to rest, to hibernate, to impede, to prevent. These too are our birthrights. For without consent, our ability to create becomes not a blessing, but a burden and an imposition. Without space for a no, there can not be truly a yes. Today, we come to this holy place and time, ready to invoke the divine, to make space for the sacred, to co-create community once again. This too is a choice. You may not be coerced into relationship with the holy or with one another. I invite you, I ask you to join us. I respect it if you will not today or ever. More sacred than any other individual need is choice. The right to know oneself, the right to know who you already are and what you need. To stretch when you can, to pause when you will, to know your body, your mind, your spirit better than anyone else, and ultimately, to be trusted with the responsibility of your own living. Let's worship together. And the opening hymn this morning is hymn 122, Spirit of Life.
Please stand and join me if you'd like to. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente d'amor, ven hacia mí. Il corazón cántale tu compasión. Solo volar, superar, hasta lograr la justicia de la vida. Agárgame, líbrame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Let us take a moment now to remind ourselves why we come together as a community. I invite you to read these words of our unison affirmation together when and if it feels right for you. And if you have joined us by Zoom, you may want to unmute your microphone so that your voice can be joined together with the voices here in the fellowship building. So please join me in May
May
we
we be reminded here of our highest aspirations
and
and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
have come to a time in our service to briefly share the important events that have touched our lives in the past week. And in this fellowship, we are committed to sustaining a community where we can share our sorrows and provide for each other the support and the care that are essential for all of us, and also where we can share our joys so that they can be amplified and reach out beyond ourselves, extending into community. So during this time of sharing our joys and concerns, we have paused the recording of and now recording, as we recognize that it is as much a blessing to be able to give as it is to receive. And in this community, which is both self-governing and also self-sustaining, we recognize it's our responsibility to both give and to receive and to do both well. Because all of our gifts, generously given, time, compassion, humor, financial contribution, all of these are needed for this fellowship and for its continued work in the world. So during our time of offering, we'll be passing a basket within the fellowship, and there's information on your screen with additional ways in which you may give. So please stand now in body, mind, or soul as you're comfortable, as we join in singing to each other as we do each week, words of sincere gratitude. And the words are on the screen.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
So it is now my honor and my pleasure to introduce our guest minister, Reverend Celia Young. Reverend Celia is an ordained interfaith chaplain and founder of Authentic Living Ministry. She is a Unitarian Universalist and a Buddhist. And for over 30 years, Ms. Young has used her life's experience in her consulting and coaching work to achieve social justice in Fortune 500 corporations worldwide. She has coached and developed individual leaders and work teams to follow their North Stars, preserve their integrity, and become who they truly are. These leaders and employees have become courageous enough to speak their truth, stand on their highest principles, and help change their organizational culture to value and nurture the diversity, equity, and inclusion of their people. And looking toward the last quarter of her life, Ms. Young has expanded her ministry and spiritual activism from the workplace into larger society, where she helps heal the traumatized and the suffering, mend the broken human spirit, and restore the basic goodness of humanity. Besides being a leadership and a life coach and a spiritual activist, Reverend Celia is also an inspirational speaker, and currently she works as a chaplain intern at the VA hospital in Long Beach. And on top of all of these accomplishments, maybe also underlying them, Reverend Celia has a BA in Business Administration, an MBA in Marketing, a Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology, and a Master of Divinity. And we are just incredibly lucky and grateful to have Reverend Celia here today to talk with us and to challenge us. So welcome, Reverend Celia.
Thank you. Thank you. This morning, I'm going to share a little reading. It's a short one. It's a poem by Rumi. The title is "The Lamps Are Different, but the Light is the Same." It's his way of showing us what religious pluralism looks like. The light streams toward you from all things, all people, all possible permutation of good, evil, thought, passion. The lamps are different, but the light is the same. One matter, one energy, one light mind, endless, emanating all things. One turning and burning diamond. One. Ground yourself, strip yourself down to blind, loving silence. Stay there until you see you're gazing at the light with its own ageless eyes. So now it's time to quiet down your mind and put your feet firmly on the ground. Relax your shoulders and jaws. Lower your eyes. Exhale all from your lungs. Then inhale deeply. Repeat yourself. Get into a rhythm. Let your thoughts come and go without grabbing them. Enjoy this minute of silence. Now come back to this room. Well, most of you know that I never choose an easy topic. This morning is no different. Are church and state really separate in this country? I have been wondering about this topic for a long time. I thought I would just openly explore it with you. I grew up on the island of Taiwan, where many religions were practiced. I never felt pressure to conform to one or another, and the government, for the most part, stayed out of the religion. But as children, we were taught to follow the rules based on Confucianism, which has dictated our lives and permeated in how the government is being run. We were taught to respect hierarchy and follow the rules the adult with authorities had laid down. When we broke the rules, there will be punishment. The fear of punishment has guided our whole life. We didn't need to follow any religion. But then you can also say that Confucianism is our religion, even it's not about a deity or a god. Around the world, many people dream about coming to the US, not just for an opportunity to build a material life, but also to enjoy the freedom to be who they are. This was made possible because this country was founded on its constitution. It's every citizen's privilege and responsibility to uphold. As an immigrant, I fully appreciate the freedom of self-expression guaranteed based on the First Amendment. This includes religious freedom as a result of creating a separation of church and state. To further educate myself, I needed to know more about the concept of separation of state and church and state and where it comes from. Forgive me for repeating something you probably all already know. Roger Williams, a colonist, was ordained as an Anglican minister in 1629, but became disillusioned with the Church of England's hierarchy, wealth, and political power. In the winter of 1636, Roger Williams was banished by the Puritan in the colony from his home in Salem, from preaching new and dangerous ideas such as religious freedom and spiritual equality. This was considered a rebellion against the theocracy system at the time. With his rest imminent, he fled to a place called Moshashuk, an Indian name, later renamed as Providence. Williams and his followers chose to create a government with limited powers to protect him and his followers' freedom to practice their faith their way. This was a radical new idea for the separation of church and state. This law of this government would only address civil matters. The government would derive its authority from the people who lived there. It would have the power to decide issues such as taxes, public work project, poverty laws, and military issues, and would have no authority at all over religious or spiritual matters. And because they needed a fair way to make decisions without drawing on a religious belief that not everyone believed in, they chose to use the system called democracy. From his coining of the phrase of the separation of church and state comes later our First Amendment of the Constitution, which was ratified in 1791. I'm sure Thomas Jefferson was influenced by his thought. So the Constitution and First Amendment reads as, I'm going to repeat that for myself. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of people peacefully to assemble, or to petition the government for the redress of grievances. For someone like me, coming from an authoritarian society, this amendment gave me such fresh air and brought me to tears often. But as a nation, built on our American model, a pluribus unum, that we as a nation are gathered together as one out of many as a democracy. That means we're a nation of diversity. The First Amendment is designed to protect citizens' rights to choose their religious practice, including not practicing at all. As America's religious practice becomes more diverse, religious diversity just adds another layer of complexity to this great nation. We will need to practice religious pluralism so that individuals have the rights and freedom to worship, believe, and practice or not. An individual will have the legal rights to organize according to their beliefs and practices. We should also commit to creating safety for ourselves and the different others to practice. We should also commit to respect our differences and strive to find common ground. Lastly, we want to make sure governments stay out of the way of citizens' freedom to exercise their liberty. However, just because we say we have a variety of religious and spiritual practices, that doesn't mean all people feel that they have equal rights and protections. For years, this country's majority religion has been Christianity. While it has made a lot of contribution to building this country, it also created a power dynamic where Christians are the dominant group. Everyone else is part of a subordinated group. Since a society and its norm usually are built by the dominant group, they usually will not notice their own dominance, just like the fish in the water. But to someone who is not a Christian, non-theistic, or religious, this dominance is very obvious. As a newcomer, I can easily detect religious influence, especially that Christianity. This pressure didn't come from the government policy, but from the culture itself. On the surface, it certainly looks like we honor all traditions, we celebrate all holidays, but only Christians' holidays are official holidays that employees can get a day off. They can celebrate all others, but must use their vacation day or sick days. When Muslims wear the hijab or other headdress, they will get ridiculed and punished often. To practice religious pluralism is to follow our shared original teaching, including love, compassion, honesty, respect, justice, forgiveness, tolerance, kindness, empathy, and harmony. Like dealing with any differences, it's natural for us to compare and judge. But when a dominant group does the judging, there's a significant consequence because it can pressure the subordinated group to conform or else be condemned. When one religion is dominant, it can easily betray these teachings and become oppressive toward the different others. My friend Mike and I were very active in Rotary Club for years. Although Rotary International is a secular organization, we noticed that clubs in the US constantly started their meeting with an invocation. When we challenged that practice, they said the practice was not denomination specific, but I said the word still hinted this is a Christian practice. They were forcing the non-Christians to go along with it. When Mike refused to do it, the club president offered to bring him a sample of invocation that all he had to do was just read it. For many years, I didn't put up any Christmas decorations. My neighbor wondered if I needed some help. When I said no several times, she finally said she would do it for me. Just like getting invited to dinner and the host said, "Let's pray." Everyone bowed their head and followed. No one asked me if I was a Christian or not. Their assumption was another form of dominant behavior. Most of the time, these are well-meaning people who think they're helping us, making us more like them. To us non-Christians, this is a pressure for us to assimilate. When I tell people that I am a chaplain, they immediately associate me with Christian faith, although the modern chaplain's role is to support all faith. We are trained to care for everyone. Most often, the patient didn't care what my faith was, but my fellow chaplains had questioned my sincerity. Just because, although I'm not a Catholic, I incorporated the Trinity in my prayer for my Catholic patient. Other chaplains challenged my authenticity just because I have a different definition of blessing from theirs. This is typical of how dominant group exercise its power to set up rules and standards to judge or exclude the different others. If we don't follow, we are seen as deviant or inferior. These daily little cuts will add up to a repressive environment for those who are not Christians. When Roger Williams created this concept of separation of church and state, did he intend for this wall to prevent encroachment from both sides? I wonder about that when I noticed that we have "In God We Trust" on both our paper and coin money. And the Orange County supervisors started their public hearing with an invocation. This certainly looks like religions have breached the wall. And I wonder if religious freedom that Roger Williams and his followers fought for was only for their Christian faith. What about all the other traditions? Do they deserve equal protection as well? Many people and I have no problem with anyone who wants to practice their religion. The question is, when someone decides their religion is more legitimate or more important, then this can become a threat to the foundation of a democratic society. We may think we're following our motto of religious pluralism, but it looks like we're letting one religion permeate and dominate our lives. In a social activist Paul Gifford's blog, he wrote, quote, "I define Christian hegemony," is a new word I never learned before. I had to look it up. Hegemony as an everyday, pervasive, systematic set of Christian values and beliefs, an individual and institution that dominate all aspects of our society through social, political, economic, and cultural power they wield. Nothing is unaffected by Christian hegemony, whether we're Christians or not, including our personal beliefs and values, our relationship with other people and the natural environment, and our economic, political, education, healthcare, criminal, housing, and other social systems. Christian hegemony operates on several levels, and one level is the internalization of dominant Western Christian values and beliefs by individuals in our society. Another level is the power that individual preachers, ministers, and priests have on people's life. Particular churches and some Christian denominations wield very significant political and economic power in this country. There's a vast network of para-church organizations, generally tax-supported, nonprofit, such as hospitals, broadcasting networks, publishing houses, lobbying organizations, and thousands of others that will influence in particular sphere of the United States and throughout the world. Another level of Christian dominance is within the power elite, the network of 7 to 10,000 predominantly white Christian men who control the largest and most powerful social, political, economic, and cultural institution in this country. And finally, there is a level that provides foundation for all the others, the long and deep legacy of Christian ideas, values, practices, policies, icons, and texts that have been produced within dominant Western Christianity over the centuries. That legacy continues to shape our language, culture, beliefs, and values, and to frame public and foreign policies decisions. This dominance has become so invisible, unquote. Obviously, this dominance is more than just pressure on me to put up some Christmas decoration. As the demographic changes continue, we as a nation have found it challenging to live with our differences in harmony. For decades, we've been fighting for racial and gender equality. Now we'll need to fight for religious equality as well. According to Pew Research, in 1990, 90% American adults claimed they're Christians. 30 years later, in 2022, that number went down to 63%. Although Christians are still dominant in the population currently, but demographic changes will cause further decline in the Christian population. When Christians are no longer the majority religion, just like when whites are no longer the majority race, soon this will change, a profound change, and impact our society. Any dominant group will feel threatened when they are afraid of losing their power and dominance. This can be about race, gender, or religion. Dominant groups often are not willing to give up their privilege of controlling and benefiting from the agenda they set. So when they're pressured to make their tent bigger to include and abide by the equal rights law for LGBTQ plus same-sex marriage and women's rights to make their own reproductive decision, they frame it as a threat to their religious freedom and climb over the wall and demand to change the law for their protection. In reality, it is not their freedom to practice that was at risk. It is their dominance. I have a t-shirt that says equal rights for others does not mean less rights for you. It is not a pie. When the fear of losing power and control as a dominant group feels existential, the dominant group will fight back. This is when the wall between the church and state starts to crumble. It is not the government that climbs over to the church side. It's the church that climbs over to government side, intrudes and impedes the government's ability to maintain a democratic system. The truth is that our beliefs and values make up our worldview. We cannot help bring our worldview into everyday life. Every decision we make is subjective. And truly separate church and state is to practice advanced citizenship. We as free people need to support a government that protects everybody's liberty. I remember President Biden said that although he's a practicing Catholic and pro-life, as a president, he represents the United States government. He must uphold the law and provide equal rights for pro-choice people as well. I have lost sleep for a long time, worrying that our democracy is under siege when we cannot hold up the wall of separation. In an interview, Amanda Tyler, a religious freedom advocate and a member of the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, discussed the latest court cases and trends in religious freedom. She said, quote, "I believe The single biggest threat to religious freedom and our democracy in the United States today is Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism is antithetical to the constitutional ideal that belonging to United States society is not predicated on what faith one practices or whether someone is religious at all. The political ideology that seeks to merge American and Christian identity is deeply embedded in American society and manifests itself in a number of different ways, some more obviously harmful than others. The most violent expression, such as what we saw at January 6th insurrection, get most attention. But the more subtle ones, like the state legislative efforts to promote teaching a Bible in public school or require posting in God we trust in public school and other places, and also bring prayers and 10 Commandments back and ban public library ability to provide all kinds of books for children. All these acts are also dangerous in that they perpetuate the false narrative that to be a true American, one must be Christian, and often a certain type of Christian. Christian nationalism undergirds a number of threats to religious freedom, including anti-Muslim bigotry, anti-Semitism, and government-sponsored religion. At its core, this idea threatened the principle of separation of church and state and undermined the establishment clause of the First Amendment. It also leads to discrimination and at times violence against religious minorities and non-religious. These issues will only draw more attention to the years to come since the 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court appear eager to hear more religious liberty cases advancing Christian nationalist argument than in previous years, unquote. Now that I have totally depressed you, I'm here to remind you that as you use, we can spend our energy fretting and worrying about the future threat of our liberty and the democratic foundation for our country. Or we can spend every ounce of our energy to fight for the freedom and justice our Constitution is designed to provide for all. We have a lot of work to do. Let us get off our couch and go do it. Amen. Blessed be. Closing hymn, hymn number 159, This Is My Song.
Please stand as you are able and sing loud and clear. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. But other heart, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
Now is the time for us to extinguish the chalice here at UUFLB and within our homes. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Walk softly, speak truthfully, love gently, breathe deeply, live wisely, go in peace. Amen.
Please join me in singing our final song, Let There Be Peace on Earth. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, let it begin with me. Have a lovely day.